Well, cheers, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I am Dave Brown, and this is the New Populist. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe. Well, we had a testimony from Victoria Nuland, who is a member of the State Department. She is a pretty powerful person within the State Department. She was on the ground in Ukraine back in 2014. When there was the Maidan revolution and the overthrow of the Ukrainian government. And she is a person that keeps on popping back up. She's also the wife of Robert Kagan, who is one of the founders of PNAC, the Project for a New North American Century, a very famous neocon. Robert Kagan's brother, Frederick Kagan, is writes for the ISW, the Institute for the Study of War, which was founded by his wife, Kimberly Kagan. And that ISW is funded by, you can guess, some military defense contractors. So Victoria Nuland and her family, they are neocons extraordinaire. And in her recent testimony in front of Congress, she said a couple of things that I thought were noteworthy and just furthers the case that this Ukraine conflict was something that our government, the U.S. government, was working on. Now, when you claim that the U.S. government was behind or supporting the coup in Ukraine 2014, people go, oh no, this is a conspiracy theory. This was all about the Ukrainians. They were doing it. We were just helping them. But we have Victoria Nuland saying that right now they are in contact with the opposition in Belarus. And of course, Belarus borders Ukraine and Russia. The president or head of Belarus has a good relationship with Vladimir Putin. And so here we have Victoria Nuland of the State Department testifying that we are in contact with the Belarus opposition. Of course, the idea being that we're trying to undermine and destabilize the government in Belarus. So we're doing that. But we didn't do that in Ukraine, where Victoria Nuland herself was in Kiev on the ground with members of the State Department and the U.S. government. There was massive funding by George Soros, $300 million. So this is what we do. We undermine governments. And so here we have the admission. We're still doing it. We're still trying to do it. It's all we do. If someone doesn't play ball, we have our elements go in and try to stir up crap. The pro-democracy groups. We're just trying to fund democracy in other countries. And that really means that country is not participating in what the U.S. wants them to do. So now they need to be democratized. And so we're apparently trying to do that in Belarus. Of course, it's not going to work in this case. Belarus is too solid, too connected to Russia. And so that really won't come to anything. The second thing, Nord Stream 2. Now, the neoconservative line is that Russia blew up Nord Stream 2. And the question would be, why? And the neocons claim, well, Russia, they're belligerent. They're trying to make a point. They want to sever themselves from Europe. But I'm thinking, and people who are rational are thinking, if this pipeline is there, that is leverage for some sort of future negotiation. Hey, stop the war. We turn the gas back on. Fuel prices drop. And German industry, which is the biggest benefactor of Russian gas, can start cranking back up again. So why would Russia blow it up? But even there, if we're claiming that Russia blew it up, the only people who seem to be bragging about the fact that it's blown up or happy about it is us. So in the same testimony that Victoria Nuland had recently, she was ecstatic, that's the word I would use, that the Russian the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was rubble at the bottom of the ocean. So she was very happy about it. So again, I would say to anybody out there claiming that Russia blew it up, why is it only Americans and Westerners who are openly happy that the pipeline is destroyed? Russia is not happy about it. They've never expressed one time that they're happy that this pipeline was destroyed. But we're to believe that they blew it up for us because clearly it's what we wanted. Again, applying basic logic. We're happy about it. We're celebrating it. You know why? Because we did it. Whether it's the United States, England, or a combination of countries, we did it. Another thing here, and this goes back to Germany, and it's becoming more and more clear when we look at President Trump back in, I think, 2018, telling Angela Merkel, why are we supplying NATO and having NATO if you guys are cutting all these economic deals with Russia with their gas, with this Nord Stream 2 pipeline? And what he was pointing out, very inconveniently, that Germany, despite the fact they're part of NATO, wanted to economically thrive with Russia and grow together. And looking at the current actions and their attitude toward Germany, where we have lectured them for not supplying tanks to Ukraine, we lecture them for having this Nord Stream pipeline. And some others made the point, and I think it's pretty obvious now, one thing that the West did not want, and by the West I mean specifically the United States and probably the UK, was a improving relationship between Germany and Russia. If that happened, it would create a economic bloc, or this economic cooperation would be so powerful that it would threaten the rest of the world and the United States, our power and influence. So it's very clear by now that we did not want Germany and Russia to get along. We didn't like the Nord Stream pipeline. We want to force them into sending more arms to Ukraine to fortify that position. And we blew up that pipeline to remove that leverage and that potential negotiation between Germany and Russia. That was done by the West. And apparently Germany has gone along with it, and they're not saying anything, because I'm pretty certain that the government there knows who was probably behind the pipeline being blown up, but they're not going to say anything. And the last thing I want to talk about too is this idea that this war in Ukraine is meant to destroy Russia. Now, I talked about 2019, the RAND Corporation, how to destabilize and weaken Russia. The goal is not to defeat Russia, but to overextend them and grind them down. And I've said that the Ukrainian war is essentially using the Ukraine as cannon fodder to basically bum rush or go up against the Russian army, get massacred, but hopefully, from our perspective in the United States, at the same time, weaken Russia economically and militarily. That's our goal. Not to defeat Russia, just to knock them down several pegs. And so we have the situation with the tanks. We want Germany to send tanks over there. And in order for them to do that, Germany said, well, you guys need to send some tanks too. So we said, okay, we're going to send some Abrams tanks. We'll send them over. Except they won't arrive anytime soon. We're not going to give you, excuse me, the best model, and you'll get them several months from now. Now, my question to anybody who thinks that our goal is really to beat the Russians, and because we love Ukraine so much, why are we stringing along our assistance? If you were building a house, say a brick house, and it required 10,000 bricks, and you went to a supplier and said, hey, I'm building a house, I need bricks for my house. Well, if the supplier said to you, well, you need 10,000, we'll give you 500. And then next month, we'll give you another 500. And then maybe in another 6 months, we'll give you 1,000. Is that person helping you build that house, or that supplier? Or are they just giving you enough to keep working? That's what we're doing with Ukraine. We're giving them enough for them to keep on fighting. not to do anything decisively, not to drive the Russians out of Ukraine, out of Crimea. We're giving them just enough to keep fighting and keep getting slaughtered. So if we were serious about Ukraine winning, why is it taking months for us to give them the assistance to actually beat Russia, which I don't think we can do, but at least you would give them, just give them everything, right? We're not doing that. We're very piecemeal, giving them just enough to hold up a fight and to have the Russians blow them to pieces. And now their casualties are 150,000 dead, probably higher. And by the time this is over, if this is over in this year, we're probably looking at 300,000 dead Ukrainians. The Russians still in Ukraine because they now have a large force there. They've accumulated a lot of firepower, tanks. They're not going to be driven out of Ukraine where they're at right now. So we've done nothing to help Ukraine win other than to let them be slaughtered. And that's a point I've made from the very beginning. This is not about Ukraine. This is about the West geopolitical plan to try to weaken Russia. And for some of the more insane neocons like Lindsey Graham, they have this idea that perhaps we could destabilize Russia to the point where Vladimir Putin is thrown out of office, the Russian, Russia crumbles, and then we can have pro-democracy Russians take the reins in Moscow and integrate Russia into the West, which means that our corporations can go there and get access to their resources for cheap. That is our long-term strategy and goal. Has nothing to do with helping Ukraine. It's about getting the Russian bear into the Western financial system and making it a vassal state of the West. We've been trying to do that since the fall of the Soviet Union. We got close under Yeltsin because he was such a boob. But then Putin came in and he ruined everything. Putin has his own issues as far as his corruption and being authoritarian. But that's not our problem with him. Our problem with him is that he didn't play the game we wanted him to play, which is why we are so desperate to have him out, which is why Lindsey Graham is on Twitter crying about him, hoping that there's a Caesar moment where he gets taken out by his inner circle, which is an absolute joke, because I would submit to you that Putin has more support in Russia than Biden has in the United States. And there's, of course, no chance that Biden's inner circle has a Caesar moment. So we project on these other countries that they're so unbalanced and so crazy and wild that things like that can happen. No, Russia is not Iraq. Russia is not Libya. They're not a country full of extremists and religious extremists, and a smaller country that can be bullied by the United States. Russia can't be bullied, and we're finding that out right now. And this long term, probably will end badly for us, if not everybody. Of course, the fear being that this escalates to the point we have a nuclear exchange, and then we're all finished. So these latest developments in this war has really clarified exactly what we're doing, who's responsible for what, and what our real game is here. And I hope people who are pro-Ukraine, and this is not a criticism of you, you're right to want the Ukrainian people to survive and their country to prosper and not be destroyed. But I want you to understand that the actions of the U.S. government isn't about doing that. If we wanted Ukraine to prosper, not be destroyed, we would have been involved 9 years ago, helping to have some sort of negotiation between Russia, the Donbass, and the Ukrainian government to have peace. We did not want that. We wanted this fight to happen so that we could, in the plans of the neocons, knock down Russia a few pegs and hopefully destabilize the country and have Putin thrown out. That was our goal. We're not going to get it, and the concern now is that things could get much worse for everyone potentially if this spirals out of control. But we will have to see what happens. Well, that's it for now. If you are, again, new to this channel, please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.